Tekken 8 has been out for a little over a week now, and for the past 7 days, I've been on a mission. The first thing that comes to mind when you think of Tekken is probably hard. The series is known for an insanely high learning curve, but you know, I'm not buying it. 7 days ago, I was convinced that I could pick this game up and within a week, I could get really comfortable and arguably good at the game. And to really put this to the test, I was going to enter an offline Tekken tournament. This is how I became godlike at Tekken 8. Now I have close to no experience with this series at all. I've played maybe a match or two of the older Tekkens at an arcade, but that doesn't really count for anything, at least in my opinion. So before I even picked a character, I had to learn the basics. On the surface level, it doesn't seem too bad. Each face button corresponds with a limb, left punch, left kick, right kick. You can go forwards and backwards, you can sidestep into the foreground and the background. Attacks either hit high, middle, or low. You can block high and mids with your standing block, and crouch block lows. I learned all of this from a video from FeeDX, and it was extremely well put together, and if you're looking to start your Tekken journey and don't want to feel extremely overwhelmed immediately, I can't recommend this enough. This is all pretty standard fighting game stuff, but when we dive into the offense and the defense of the game, things get complicated and fast. But before I get into all that, it's time to pick a character. Tekken 8 launched with a pretty large base roster full of just wacky stuff. There's a grappling tiger, a bear with a fish missile, a panda, and a ton of new and returning fighters. And after giving them all a glance, I decided to focus all of my energy into Yoshimitsu. This was my arcade main, but even after touching him for just a couple minutes, I knew I found my guy. The first thing I did was attempt the combo challenges. Coming from Street Fighter 6, there were significantly less trials for me to tackle, which was at first disappointing, but I would quickly find out that these would keep me busy for a while. I mentioned earlier that although things seemed simple, things just weren't as they seemed. Seeing you have 4 attack buttons, let's take a look at how many moves Yoshimitsu has. This seems daunting, because it is. Every attack button, depending on if you're standing still, pressing a direction, crouching, running, dashing back, sidestepping, how you're standing, and what stance you're in can all provide a new move. That's not even to mention multiple button inputs, all with the same scenarios with those. I spent probably an hour looking it all over. Although some moves weren't exactly useful.
You should kill yourself. Now!
There was still a lot to memorize and incorporate. After finishing the combo trials and doing some labbing for myself, I decided to see if anyone had posted any day 1 combos I could steal. Fighting game combos have always been pretty tough to read, but man, Tekken is a new beast. After trying and failing to do some of the combos I found, I decided to just jump into some games to see what things were actually like. Before I could play, they made me do a placement match to determine what my starting rank would be. I lost versus the CPU, which means I started at the lowest rank possible, but in turn means it's only up from here. With a newfound sense of humility and drive to improve, I hopped into my first ever Tekken matches, and similar to my fight with the CPU, I got completely waxed. I looked like a toddler on ice skates for the first time. My movement was bad, I didn't know how to block anything, I was mashing in all the wrong ways. After 3 humbling losses, it was back to the lab. Now is a better time than ever to go over how offense is played in this game, because whatever is going on here isn't that. Now my main fighting game experience is Smash Brothers, which is nothing like a traditional fighter at all. It's all about jumping around and finding openings through aerials and throws. I played a little bit of Street Fighter 6, which is a more grounded game, where footsies play a huge role in getting that solid punch or kick to get your combo started. Tekken is nothing like either of these at all, to me at least. 99% of the time, it comes down to getting a launcher. These are moves characters have to launch their opponent into the air, which is where all of your main combos are done. Everything you do in neutral is to condition them into a position where you can get one of these, so it's important to try and learn some good combo routes out of them. I tried to really get some of the combo trials into my muscle memory, and I started to experiment with some of the launchers I was able to find. Eventually, I wandered back in a casual arena, and I got a couple wins, emphasis on the couple part, and I played about 50 sets. To end the first day, I tuned into some streams, especially iMusician, to see if I could pick up anything about these things that he was doing that I wasn't. After a little bit of time in the lab, going over what I learned yesterday, I was ready to try my hand at some ranked matches. This is a challenge after all. And similar to yesterday, it was a rough start. Loss after loss after loss, I would run into a new character I had never fought and fail to adapt to whatever I saw. I took a step back and decided to watch some of my games to see why I was losing so consistently, which is also where I learned how amazing the replay system is in this game. Watching over replays, the game will give you advice on moments where you could be playing defense better, where you can punish, and combo routes. You can also practice these as tips come up as much as you want. This made learning and VOD analysis a much more engaging experience. It's one thing to take a mental note of something, but to actually practice executing it was something I don't think any fighting game has done before. And after watching some games and practicing the advice, I actually started to win some of my games. I even ranked up. If you've ever played a ranked game of any kind, you'll know that if you win, you gain points, and if you lose points. And sometimes you'll find yourself on a losing streak and you'll demote to a lower rank, which is extremely frustrating for a new player. It also makes you not want to replay people after losing to them once in fear of just losing more experience. At the beginning ranks, Tekken 8 completely throws this out the window. If you win, you'll gain elo, but if you lose, there isn't a penalty. I wish more games would implement a system like this. It gets rid of some of the discouragement and frustration of losing, and encourages you to rematch better players and actually learn how to improve. Throughout the day, I scratched and clawed from my beginner rank all the way to combatant, 5 different tiers up. It felt so good to make as much progress as I did, but I would be quickly humbled the next day. The higher the rank, the better the players you're going to have to fight. Pretty standard stuff. But even at the low level I was at, the skill curve dramatically increased. With a slightly improved punish game, I reached Ranger. A drastic decrease in rank ups, but still good progress. You know how earlier I said it was nice to not lose elo for every loss? Well, once I hit Warrior, the next tier of rankings, it was back to the traditional ranking experience. By this point, it was time to really face the music. Although I was spending a bit of time learning and labbing, I would only do as much as I needed to continue to be able to beat the people in my current tier. Throughout the day, I D-ranked and re-ranked 4 different times. I was hard stuck Warrior, which was infuriating by the end of the day, but I needed to really sit down, figure out why I was losing so much, and actually learn how to play the game. iMusician was a godsend in this aspect. They are a much higher rank than I am, and I figured out a lot of how to actually get my advantage state started outside of just throwing out my launchers, how to get myself out of the corner, and some things I just didn't know my character could do. I glossed over stances in my first day because I didn't really see any value in it. All I could find was the Majin Dragonfly, which I only really used during combos, and this. But I was neglecting one of his best stances and how important it is to playing this character. No sword stance. If you're familiar with Tekken at all, you're probably cringing at the fact that it took me 3 whole days to figure out the best aspect of this character, but I could not for the life of me figure out how to enter this state. Shout out to Delusional Lobo. Without this video, I don't think I ever would have figured it out. No sword stance seems like it would just be bad by the name. Why would a sword user want to put his weapon away? But in this state, all his moves become longer, more powerful, and steal health from the opponent, and some of his best combos take advantage of this. After ranking and deranking and a bunch of practice, I stayed at Warrior. Although I made no rank progress, I felt really good going into the next day. It was time to lock in. I got a good night's sleep, I went to class, and then I was straight back to the mines. By the end of the day, I had reached Eliminator, a hard-fought placement. Today was the day I accepted the fact that I probably wasn't going to hit one of the highest ranks the game had to offer. To get good at any fighting game, the only way to really learn is to continue to play new players and new characters. Sure, maybe if I only had to fight a single matchup the entire time I could hit a super high online rank, but that's not really the point of this challenge. In learning anything, you will hit walls that honestly can only be conquered by gaining more experience. but in 2 days, I was confident that the experience and effort I put into improving at this game would be enough to make some magic happen at this tournament. The last 2 days of this challenge, I unfortunately didn't get a chance to play Tekken at all, as I'm still a full-time student and I had some commitments with some friends. But you know I still had to get a little bit of VOD review in. Side note, this thing I was at was called Shrek Rave, and it was pretty much exactly what you're picturing in your mind right now. After a very long week, I got in my car and began my journey to my first Tekken tournament, and it gave me some time to reflect on my week. No matter the outcome of tonight, I was extremely happy with how this week went. I genuinely don't think I've ever put this much conscious effort into getting good at something from complete scratch, even if it is a video game. I think I gained a lot of experience on how to actually learn something effectively, and let's just compare my day 1 gameplay to my day 7 gameplay. It's night and day, and seeing it for myself, I can't help but feel proud. In total, with ranked, casual matches, and VOD review, I put in about 55 hours to this challenge. I played over 500 sets, averaging about 11 hours per day, all on top of still juggling school and just being a person. I also reflected on why I started this challenge in the first place, and it all came down to one single man. When I first started this challenge, I was sitting in my best friend's basement, and I brought up the idea of seeing if I could get good at Tekken in just over a week. Just a random idea I probably wasn't going to act on. At the time, I hadn't really given it too much thought, and in all honesty, I wasn't really dedicated to trying this challenge at all. That was until he looked at me and he said, "No, you can't." And in that moment, something in my brain happened. The fire was secretly lit inside of me. The more and more I thought about it, "No, you can't," the more it drove me borderline insane. The more I had to prove him wrong. It built up so much that I found myself on the ride home going to a Target and buying the game, and going straight into my room to start this challenge for real, and playing 55 hours in 5 consecutive days, going the farthest lengths my body could handle to finally prove this guy wrong. As I walked into the venue and I approached the TO to enter, only one thing came to my mind as my gamer tag. J last. Because this would be the last time my friend Jason would ever doubt the lengths I would go to win. I was ready to win this entire thing. Now at this point in the script, I had written this as if I had gone 0-2, because it would have been really funny, but also realistic. I spent the first 2 years of competitive Smash going 0-2, and after only a week, I didn't think I was going to do well at all. But surprisingly, I got 4th place. Out of 9 people, and they were almost all Street Fighter players. Okay, maybe he was right.